Hanover. Hanover up in
Green Shoe will win the Kentucky Futurity.
It's all Hanover in 149 and 2.
You're my candy girl, 148 and 2, a stakes and track record.
Percy Blue Chip for the victory.
Winback Farm of Ontario is home to 7 outstanding pacers, including Better Than Cheddar, a proven sire of Ontario Sire Stakes Gold winners. 3 rich performers stand their second season in 2021, including O'Brien Award winner Jimmy Freight, Horse of the Year McWicked, and O'Brien Award winner Stag Party. Also standing, Millionaires Aren't Spink, Better's Delight, and Shadow Play. For more information, it's winbackfarm.com.
I'm here with Ron Burke at his training center located in Astor, Florida. Ron, this is just one of your many locations. How many places are you training and racing out of currently?
I think we're at 5. It's here, Gateway, the 2 barns at the Meadows. Devin has a few at Pompano, and then we have the barn in Ohio, and then we're just opening the barn in Indiana. So we're pretty spread out pretty well.
You talked a little bit about there have, because of various reasons, been purse cuts regarding the racehorses. Tell us a little bit about how that played into your purchasing of the 2-year-olds for stakes programs this year.
Yeah, I mean, the Poconos, Meadows, Chester, which are 3 of the bigger tracks we go to, were down 25% last year. They're not back actually yet. Yonkers was down, maybe even a little bit more. It's starting to come back. Thank God the Meadowlands in Ohio are very strong. Their purses are up, so, we switched more to an Ohio-based for the racehorses. And it was part of the reason we bought 50 Ohio breds. Their, money looks like it's solid at least for the next 6 or 7 years. Where PA, it's been a little bit of a battle every year. We, have to fight to keep the money that we have, and then the casinos not being open and not being able to drink and things, it's affected it definitely. So, that's basically why we are where we're at.
Talking about developing young talent, your dad did a good job developing you guys. Now you're developing the next generation. Let's talk a little bit about Brad and Ryan and their new involvement in the stable.
Yeah, they had never had anything to do with it due to the fact that they have school, they had sports, they had things like that. But due to COVID, they had time and they didn't have anything to do. And I basically said, you might as well come in with me. And it was funny, they were going to come in and they were going to groom and learn about the horses. Well, we weren't ever short of grooms, we were short of riders. So pretty quick, they went from groom to assistant trainers real quick. And they did show an aptitude to it, especially the younger one, maybe a little bit more. But Ryan at the end actually was getting better and getting, stronger with it all the time. And I think Brad's a little bit more because he's less worried about making a mistake. He'll make a mistake and he's fine with it. He moves on and, he basically blames the horse. He doesn't ever think he does anything wrong. So, probably in that way it helps you a little bit because you're not so much trying to be perfect.
You have a very strong competitive nature, and I know that you care very much and put a lot of pressure on yourself. How do you handle it all with horses racing everywhere and entering, and what is your way of staying mentally sane through all of this?
Pretty much I've come to the conclusion every day has one disaster. When you have a barn our size, you got to realize every day something bad's going to happen. A horse is going to break down, an owner's going to be upset, something's going to go bad, and you're not going to have a perfect day. But the thing is, then you have to look at all the good things that happen that day. And especially with a barn like ours, we've been pretty successful. There's usually a good thing happens every day too, something else, a baby's born that you're really happy with, you win a race that you really wanted to win, which, it all evens out in the end.
Let's talk about your partners. You have had a strong, consistent partner group. Tell us a little bit about how you think that those partnerships benefit you.
Well, Mark's probably the last key that stepped us up to where we were. I mean, we were doing good, and we met Mark, and Mark had new ideas and new ways of looking at things, and and you couldn't get too big for him. You couldn't, get enough horses for him, and we tried to then expand to everywhere we can, and Mark does almost all the buying and selling of aged horses. The babies, it's more me, Larry, Phil, Frank, that do the more baby work. But Mark's pretty much 100% in charge of, getting aged horses and getting rid of the aged horses. So it was something else that we as a barn didn't have to do, and he takes. And the other thing is Mark's a way better communicator than I am, and he communicates to all the other partners. So basically I have to communicate to Mark, which is easy because he's the easiest guy in the world. You just tell him the truth, and it is what it is, and he'll figure out what to do with it.
I'm here with Bud Hatfield, who is an owner partner here in the Burke stable, but also on several horses. Bud, tell us a little bit about what drew you to the 2-year-old game years ago.
Well, it's a lot of excitement there. Heather, we love to watch the babies grow up and get to the races. And we're very fortunate. We got great trainers and great owners. So
it really makes it a lot easier. Bud is here with his wife Kelly and dog Hattie. This is like it's got to be just a fun, relaxing way for you to be involved in your stable.
Oh, we love it. We couldn't wait to get up here. We came up yesterday, stayed all night, and we're going to watch them train this morning, but unfortunately we had rain. But we're going to watch them jog.
Rain has been the story of our life here during the last few days. But famously, some of your, in the last 5 years, famous horses, bar hopping, kissing in the sand, you've supported stakes racing heavily throughout your career. Tell us a little bit about your take now on the yearlings that you purchase and what states you are mostly going towards.
Well, we like Ohio. The program's getting so strong there. The money is really good. Their Sire Stakes program is really, really good. So Ronnie is our main trainer in Ohio, him and Brent Davis. And then now we stepped up and got a couple of horses. We hope some Grand Circuit horses with him. And of course, Nancy Tactor's got some horses for us, a lot of good horses. So we're in a pretty good spot, we think.
You got to check out that action with It's Academic last year, who was quite impressive on the Ohio circuit. Tell us a little bit about Global Pandemic, one that we're going to be speaking to Ronnie about very shortly.
He's a Cantab Hall. I watched his video about 30 times and just fell in love with him. He's really a good-looking colt, and he seems to be training very well, so we're kind of excited about him.
Was he one that you mentioned to Ronnie that you liked before the sale, or do you typically see what he purchases and then get in after they're already bought?
Well, that one I had my eye on for a while. I just kept looking at him. Then I did say, Ronnie, if you're going to buy that horse, I'd like to have a part of him. So.
When the sales catalogs come out, how do you do it, Bud? Is that the first thing, or are you looking at pedigrees? Are you looking at field videos? Are you talking to people? What is your methodology?
Well, Perry Soderberg, he's one of the people that I really is a go-to guy. Well, like I said, we got such good partners, Marvin Katz, and Brixton Medical. I mean, these guys are just great. And so we get a lot of input. Then we go look at videos, and then we usually all agree on what we're going to buy before we get to the sale.
How long have you been with Burke Racing?
Oh, a long time. We were started out with just Ohio horses, and we did quite well with him over the years. And then as the program got better, then we've kind of gotten involved a little bit more. But it's been a long relationship.
Let's talk about your philosophy regarding going into the sale. Is it pedigrees first? I know that you have partners that put together lists for you. Is it videos? How do you tackle such a large job?
Yeah, with us it's pedigree first. I mean, they got to have pedigree. I don't think you can get around that. Then it's looks. The videos, I'm becoming more and more, they're overused. For us, I'll eliminate one on them, but I'm not going to get crazy on them because I don't really know if you can tell that much with them. Maybe with the trotters a little more. Listen, I understand why they do them. The horses that video great, people get paid, and that's what they're trying to do. So I understand that, but I'm not I've seen too many now that videoed poorly and, went out were very good. And I've seen too many that looked like paddock champions and they went out and weren't that great. So, you still got to go back to the horse, the individual itself, and the, pedigree. Usually the big races are run by the same families year in, year out. It's not, it's not guesswork.
Speaking of families, let's talk about one of your two in training, a homebred Lou Sasson, first foal out of Sassa, Hanover.
Yeah, that's actually the first time that, that we kept one of our top mares, with the idea that we were seeing every other year we were selling horses, mares, and then buying back their first foal for more than we had sold the mare for. So we decided we're going to keep some. I think we're up to like 27 mares now. And this is her first one. She was actually highly ranked. Almost all our babies are raised at Hanover by Dr. J. And she, really was high on this baby. So, it was a baby that we would have probably paid $250 for at minimum. And, instead we only had $30,000 in it. So, that was a success story. Now, it's not easy. I learned a lot. The people at breeding, it's a lot more harder than I thought. I thought you just took your mare, took the stud, have baby, 2 years later you're racing it. No, I learned you lose along the way. They don't all get in full. But, we surrounded ourselves with people that know what they're doing versus us who didn't know what we were doing. And I think that's what's led to us doing all right with this.
Treacherous Tom, also a homebred. Tell us a little bit about him.
It's actually a Tom and Scott Dillon horse. They bred him, and he's a well-bred colt, and he's very nice. He's, it was kind of funny because I don't know why. I just assumed he wasn't bred well. And then he came, and he's been going good, and said to Scott one day, hey, this thing's pretty nice. And he said, well, Ron, he's bred to be nice. I don't know why you wouldn't. It's like, I guess I really didn't even check. I said, I treat them all the same. They got to earn their way up or down the ladder. But he's been very good from day one. Those people are the easiest people in the world to train for. Basically, whatever you want to do is fine with them. They just, want, champions. And if they're not champions, let's move them on and, find another one.
Global pandemic, $120,000 yearling purchase at Timonium. Tell us a little bit about that Cantab colt.
Actually, that was Bud. Bud called us and said, hey, I want to buy this colt. I want you and Mark to take half. I just want us three to own it, so we could have some fun together and do something together. He said, go to 100. And I went and looked at the colt, and he was a nice-looking colt. And I said, okay. So when we were coming in the ring, my dad said, wow, I really like this colt. So I was 90, and somebody else was 100, and I was like, wow. Dad said, well, Bud has more money than us, so we can be 100. They were 110, then we were 120, and now I'm thrilled. He's probably our favorite colt right now of the trotters, but it's close. I have a couple muscle heels this year that I really like. This is the first year in the last 4 or 5 that I actually think my trotters will live up to my pacers. My pacers have been strong, but really since What the Hill and them guys, I haven't had the premier trotter. I had the years in a row where I had him, Southland Frank, Mission Brief. I've had real nice trotters, but I haven't had killers, and I think there's a couple killers in this group.
You wouldn't know it with the weather we've had while we're filming, but you mentioned that the weather's been so great down here that you're ahead. Tell us a little bit about where you are, where they are in their training schedule.
Yeah, about 3 weeks ago, we were trained about 70 of the 77 here between 12 and 15, which is a little bit further along than we normally are. But, stake payments are up, and I want to have as good as an idea as I could. So we trained them a little bit faster. They all did it easy. Yannick was here, and we were very happy with them. So then we give them 9 days off, actually, that was a new thing. We haven't done that, give them extended that long. Then came back and we trained them easy one trip, and then an easy another trip. And then we trained yesterday the fillies 2 trips, and we're thrilled. And today was the colts supposed to be 2 trips, but it just wasn't meant to be.
What made you decide to give the extended break? Is it something you saw from someone else or throughout your travels, or just, I know that you and Diane both work out a lot. Is it something that you thought through human exercise and related it?
Dr. Brown, who's one of our lead vets in Pennsylvania, he's been on me that horses need more recovery time than we're giving them. And so we've been trying to give them a little bit more recovery time as we went along, and I really think it's helping them.
Let's talk about 6 Feet Please, a $50,000 Lexington purchase. Once again, out of the family, Me So Fast, 45 red, horses that you've had before.
Yeah, actually, we would have went a lot more on that colt, and it's nice when you feel like you got a bargain. I thought he looked just like the ones in the family that have been good, and I really thought he would be a top colt, and he's been probably all along the top pacer. The other colts have closed the gap a little bit on him, but if we all had to pick one along the way, we would have picked him, I think.
And lastly, rounding out the list, Seaside Park, a filly, a $95,000 purchase from Preferred at Timonium.
Yeah, it's actually out of another mare I trained called Cinnamony that was actually a real nice mare that had a mark of 50 and was an artificial. First foal was a Sun Beach out of we didn't love, and it's actually turned out to be an all right horse. This filly I loved, and to me it's the most fun horse we have to train. Literally anybody can train it. She'll do anything you want. She's perfect mouth, perfect gait, seems to have high speed. Like, I cannot see her being a miss. At this point, she's already shown us fast enough quarters with her attitude, with her gait, with her breeding. The Seasides have been impressive. What the Hills have been impressive, both of them, the new sires. I have 2 Fear the Dragons. Now, they were 2 of the more expensive Fear the Dragons, but they're both great. So, everybody thinks Ohio's coming in a couple years to the Grand Circuit. Ohio's coming this year. Like, there will be Grand Circuit races won with Ohio breds. Elver had done it, and a couple other of ours had pushed into it. But I think this is another level. They bred better mares to better sires. That was the first time ever Ohio got, when What the Hill and Down by the Seaside went, the top 3-year-old of each that year both went to Ohio. So that's not normal. So you're, I think, going to see them step it up.
Give me the horse that you would say you thought was an A group, or maybe thought was a C group and turned into an A. Tell me a little bit about some of the things that have surprised you and what those horses were over the years.
We had an art major colt a few years ago, and that's why I know he didn't turn out to be much, because I can't remember his name. But we trained him in 59 here, and we thought he was the real deal. And literally the first qualifier, he did win. Anybody was like rank and acting rude, and I was like, this is bad. And sure enough, he didn't turn out to be much. The two that would be, I'd say, the biggest surprises, Sweet Lou was in the top group, but he was not the top horse. He was in the bottom of the top group. And we put him in bikes one day, and he went 4:58 last corner, 27 flat. And we were like, wow, this thing's something else, And then Mission Brief never stayed flat a whole mile the whole time down here. Perfect, she had a perfect record of making a break every time she trained. We took her up to Gateway. About the 3rd time we trained her, we put her in a bike, and she went in 2 minutes back half 56. And Tony Alagna was standing there and said, that's not a 2-year-old, is it? And I said, it is. He said, I've never seen anything do what she just did. And I knew she was special, but I knew then also we were getting her there. So sometimes it's patience. Sometimes it's just a horse is better than you think. But, usually we have a pretty good idea. I'm real good at picking out the bad ones. If I call you a bad one, you're probably 99% a bad one.
So what will happen? These 2-year-olds get north. What's the plan? From the time that they leave here? What is their progression throughout their 2-year-old season?
Well, they'll leave here in better in 2 minutes, and the trotters probably in 2:2. Then we'll get home, and it takes us 2 weeks, where we used to panic because when it first came down there, we were like, oh my God, these things are horrible. But it takes them 2 weeks to change tracks, to change the shipping, I don't know, whatever. So I don't even worry about it. I just go in through the motions for 2 weeks, and then in 2 weeks they flip the button, and they're right back to where they were when we left here. Then they're sent basically to their region, wherever it be, if it's in Canada, if it's in Ohio, if it's in New York or New Jersey, that we send them there. They'll race, in their region. And then the good ones will all meet up again when we take the barn for Lexington, and we will finish up at Lexington with most of them, and then the top ones. Thank God for this year, which I love. It's back to the Meadowlands for Breeders' Crowns and for their aged races. It cuts our shipping way down, and it's still the premier track to race at. It's still, you get your most fun, for me at least, winning there. The Canadian tracks are the close second. They're incredible, and Hoosier has done an unbelievable job. The 2 years they've had the Breeders' Crown, we were always blown away with what a job they did.
Well, I'm sure you have quite a few winners here in this barn, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you.
Marlowe, Hanover, Oticon, Hanover up in
Green Shoe will win the Kentucky Futurity.
It's all Hanover in 149-2.
You're my candy girl, 148-2, a Stakes and Trent record.
Hersey Blue Chip for the victory!
Winback Farm of Ontario is home to 7 outstanding pacers, including Better Than Cheddar, a proven sire of Ontario Sire Stakes Gold winners. 3 rich performers stand their second season in 2021, including O'Brien Award winner Jimmy Freight, Horse of the Year McWicked, and O'Brien Award winner Stag Party. Also standing, Millionaires Art Spink, Better's Delight, and Shadow Play. For more information, it's winbackfarm.com.